Hi, this is Dr. Tiv, and this is a practice owner story. Now, this has got to do with water and potential flooding in practices. Now, because I'm an overthinker to some degree, when I was building this place, I was making sure that we don't end up with potential problems. So we've got generators and things for electricity, but one of the things I was really aware of was water. Because there's pipes running everywhere in a dental practice, down the wall to the chairs, to the stereo area, basically to every room that has basins and sinks. And so at any time, one of these pipes could crack or break or get drilled into, or just their fittings could come loose. And so the whole place could flood, and that's something I didn't want to do. Because I have responsibility not only to myself and my staff, but also the dentists that work here as well. They're service facility agreement dentists, so they rent this space. And it's my obligation to make sure that they can rent this space without disruption. And so you can imagine what would happen if we left on a Friday, a pipe burst or something leaked, and we came on a Monday. The whole place would be like, maybe like a, centimeters or a meter of water. And the electricity would be out, and we'd have to spend the whole day or week or months getting the place back to normal again, depending on the damage that was done. So in order to avoid that, what we've done at the practice is we have solenoid switches on our mains water. So at night when we turn the power off, it actually shuts the water. It's like almost like a plug, electronic plug that goes into the water supply to stop the water coming through. So we can make sure that we don't have these major leaks and floods. Now, even with that, during the day, there is some leakages that happen in like smaller pipes that we have, and that causes major dramas. Well, not major, but enough for us to have to allocate staff to wiping and sweeping it up, and can take a whole day to rectify that. So you can only imagine what would happen if the whole place got flooded. So if you're an owner out there, look at getting a solenoid valve or switch to stop the water flowing in. But by doing that, there's a problem. And our one problem are these. These are our lovely Melag 44B pluses. These are autoclaves that are so good, but they're plumbed in. And I love the idea of them being plumbed in, so you don't need to top water up or change water or anything like that. They just get it from the reverse osmosis unit that we have. But it does mean that when the solenoid switch gets turned off at night and it blocks the water supply, there's no water going to these things. So the cycle can't finish. So either a staff member has to stay back late, which is not great, or the next morning they need to do the Bowie dig test, the vacuum test, then put a cycle through. So it can take up to 2 hours to get equipment through. So if something comes in at night and we need it for the morning, someone needs to stay back, or we have to wait 2 hours in the morning to get it. And that's not ideal. So in order to fix that, I'm going to overcomplicate the solution. Let's have a closer look. These autoclaves don't have an internal water reservoir because they take everything straight from the plumbed in pipes. And these are the pipes. Now, again, for redundancy, what I've done is I got the plumber to plumb them in so we can use an external tank if we wanted to. So if there's anything that happens to the reverse osmosis unit or something with the water, we can actually open this, put this in there, and it'll suck up the water from these tubes. Now that sounds great in theory, but in order to make that happen, there's 2 valves on each autoclave that you need to change, and then you get confused. And if you get confused, water actually leaks out of this, which isn't ideal. So that can be a potential issue. So I'm the only one that's allowed to switch those across. So the simple answer would have been to, let's just get a jug in, and we should be able to put the water, the reservoir, the reserve pipe inside, and then turn these 2 plugs at night, and it should be fine. But guess what? I don't have the time, and I'm too scared to train someone to do it, because if they get it wrong, which sometimes they will, even I get it wrong sometimes, then it could cause flooding if they just do that and leave. So let's have a look inside. Hi. So this is behind the Melag autoclaves. There's a few things going on here, so let me explain. We've got one of these tubes going directly into the autoclave itself. That's where it gets its water from. There's no tank actually in those things. But we have these other devices. We've got these little valves that can turn on and off, and these little splitters as well that splits the connection. So what's happening right now is coming from the reverse osmosis unit, the thing that distills our water. We have this little T intersection that takes the water to 2 autoclaves. We've got 2 that are in use at the moment. And then from there, we have these little valves that are used to either allow the water to go directly into the autoclave or get converted into my little reservoir or reserve external water fitting that's here as well. But we're going to change all that. What we're going to do is we're going to take the water and take it straight from the reverse osmosis unit. We're going to put one of these valves on it straight away so we can turn the water off if we need to, and it's going to go into my new contraption that I'm really excited to show you. So this is my contraption that's overly complicated. Now, the reason I did this is I wanted to make sure that if we had a system, it was completely hands-off. if someone had to touch it at any point in time, we may as well have the knobs that we had to turn on and off, because there's going to be errors in human activity with those. So no humans. We want to be completely automated. Now I'm holding this because this goes up the top there to add another reservoir for an emergency, so we can put into another water bottle if we need to, but I'm going to take that out to keep things simple. So it needs power, so I'm just going to power it up. And that's it starting up. So it tests the LCD screen first, and then it does its calibrations, and then it says it's ready. Now this thing's pretty cool. It's got some solenoid switches as well, and it's got like a little pressure or weight sensor in it to tell how much weight there is. So as I push this down, it'll actually count more and more weight, and there'll be a certain point where if there's not enough weight, it'll click on. There you go. And it'll start taking water in. And when it gets too much, it'll stop. So that's pretty cool. So that's basically how this system works. So it's weight censored, so they'll let the water in. When it gets to a certain level, the water basically stops. And then when it gets down to a certain minimum level, it'll fill it back up again. So there's this reservoir that's always filling and decreasing as the autoclaves use it. Now we can pop the top off and I can show you what's inside. It's a bit of a mess in here, which is why I've got the top, because again, we need to make sure that people can't get access to it. So that's it, heaps of stuff in there. So these are the two solenoid switches, again for redundancy. So if water's going in and one of these fails, I didn't want to over flood the place, so we've got a second one as a backup. So that's water going in. Water going out is through these guys here, and basically the autoclaves will draw them in. Now what these are, they haven't actually been activated yet, are little flow sensors, so they'll detect how much water's being sucked out of the actual system. Now we can do it by weight as well, but I want individual so we can automate other things in the practice later on. So just say I wanted to know when the autoclaves are turned on and when to indicate to the staff that the cycle's finished, I might be able to use these later on. So I've already got them in there. So basically power comes in at 12 volts. We've got a little regulator here that breaks it down to 5 volts for the little microcontroller, and then it goes to 12 volts for the solenoids, and then we're running the little LCD screen with a little touch screen here as well, so a touch sensor. So when we push the touch sensor, it changes the settings and asks us what we would like to do next. So a lot of this was made so that it could be interactive with humans, so they could recalibrate it, they could reset it, they can change the levels without having to have someone come in and recode and reprogram the whole thing. To be honest, that's what took the most amount of time. So I'm pretty proud of this little guy, but we're going to plug him in now and see if he actually works. So first thing we're going to do is turn off the water, because that'll stop us from basically getting our hands wet and flooding the whole place. So that's it there. We've got how many minutes it's on for, and it's filling up with weight slowly for the initial fill. When this gets to 2.8 litres, so 280 grams, then we should be right. Now I've got the can here to make sure that it hasn't frozen in time, so we can tell that it's actually working. A little touch screen here, so if I push it, it goes to different options. We can zero the scale, we can calibrate it, we can set the minimum level, or the maximum level I should say, and then the minimum level, and then we can reset it, or we can restart it. Now it's about to hit the 2,800 mark, so excited to see if it stops. It should. It's filling up slowly because I drained the reverse osmosis unit before, so there's no reservoir of water, so it's just filling up as it goes along. So here we go. And it stopped. All right, so that's my overcomplicated solution to a problem that we had. Now some of you might be asking, why are you worried about water when the power gets turned off? So we get power turned off to pretty much everything except the autoclaves at night, so they could run a cycle. That was the idea, but I didn't account for us turning off the water, so it couldn't get water flow. Now I've solved that problem. Now I could have done this a lot in many ways they're a lot easier. We could have manual valves that people turn on and off. Didn't like that idea because well, as soon as you get humans involved, errors occur. The other way we could have done it was just a simple like float valve. So as it comes up, it stops the water, and as it comes down, it lets the water back in there again. But I wanted something that I could, I guess, future-proof for later on. So my idea is that when the autoclaves finish at some point, we can like flash one of the lights in the rooms to let the staff know that the autoclaves need to be cleared so we can keep these things running more efficiently all day long. Well, that's dental practice owner problems with Dr. Tiv, my overcomplicated solution. I hope you enjoyed being there for the ride, I guess, and the little story that I had. All right, this is Dr. Tiv, over and out. By the way, this is our Tootner. It's not in service, but I've kept it for a zombie apocalypse because those things are like German tanks. They just keep going and going and going and going. Those things have actually an internal water reservoir, which is great because it doesn't mean it needs to get water from an outside source, but it's bad because you need to keep pouring it and filling it up all the time, which sometimes doesn't get done. And there's a lot of steam as well that comes from it, which is great to have eliminated with these guys here. I've done it. I've done it. Look at this, my invention. Do.